Okay, so my case study that I researched was on Ed O'Bannon versus the NCAA. So in 2014, a former UCLA basketball player by the name of Ed O'Bannon filed an antitrust class action lawsuit against the National Collegiate Athletic Association, more commonly known as the NCAA, for using his likeness in a video game, which he had never given consent for, nor had he ever been compensated for it. So O'Bannon, not only did he file the lawsuit on his own behalf, but also on the behalf of all other Division I, NCAA men's basketball, as well as FBS football players whose likeness had been used in past video games without any consent and without any compensation. So, origin in 2009, Ed O'Bannon noticed in a video game that had been produced by Electronic Arts, commonly known as EA, that there was a nameless player in the video game who resembled him to a T. He had the same left-handed shot. He was the same height, same hometown, same bald hair, same number, everything. They just didn't use his name. And it was also on his 1995 UCLA basketball team. And he thought to himself, this is clearly me. I never consented to allowing them to use me in this video game, and I was never paid for being used in this video game. Which these video games generate millions of dollars every year that they're released. So O'Bannon then he led a charge against the NCAA, which was backed by several other former college athletes, football and basketball, that had been used in these video games, and the goal being to stop the practice of using these players' likeness in the video games without compensation. So the trial began on June 9th, 2014, and ended about 2.5 weeks later on June 27th, 2014. The court ended up ruling that the NCAA did indeed violate antitrust laws by failing to pay athletes in these video games, and for clearly using their likeness, since the video games had been starting to be produced in the year 2003. The NCAA's rebuttal was that they could not pay the players for their likeness because it would ruin the integrity of the game and it would defeat the point of amateurism in collegiate sports. Whereas the court, they identified two different markets that affected the NCAA's challenge rules. These markets being the college education market as well as the group licensing market. So the case for the college education market was that the games that were being made were only including FBS, which is the highest level of Division I football, and Division I basketball. And no other market, being the FCS, which is the next level down of football, Division II football, basketball, no other markets could compete with with the FBS and Division I basketball, because they weren't making games about these different divisions. So no other market could compete with these two entities, FBS football and Division I basketball, to allow the players to be paid, specifically for their likeness. The other case, being the group licensing market, was that using players' likeness in video games was inherently increasing demand for the video games. So everybody wanted to go out and play as their every kid wanted to go out and buy these video games to play as their favorite player. They wanted to play with Tim Tebow or Ed O'Bannon, so the NCAA was directly making money off of the likeness of these players. That's the reason why people were buying the video games, was to play as these players. Therefore, the NCAA was directly profiting off of the players, and the players weren't seeing a penny of it. So, in the end, the judge ruled that while athletes may obviously be permitted to receive full scholarships covering the cost of attending the full cost of attending the university, as well as the cost of living, so housing and food. No athletes may be paid for their services to the university or to the media market. So they couldn't receive gifts, they couldn't be paid, they could only receive the athletic scholarships and cost of living, which the NCAA wanted. They didn't want to pay the athletes. However, on the other end, the NCAA did have to pay out over $40 million to former athletes that appeared in these video games, again dating back from 2014 to 2003. And some of those games included former players like Ed O'Bannon from the 1995 UCLA basketball team. So due to this, the video games have stopped being made because essentially the court said if you're going to use these players' likeness, you're going to have to pay them. And if you pay them due to what your rules are, saying this to the NCAA, they may not compete for you. So the NCAA ultimately can no longer make these video games because if they do, they will have to pay the athletes. And if they pay the athletes, they're defeating their moral or their status of amateurism. So while the lines are still very, very blurry on what athletes may or may not receive from a university, this made things a little bit clearer.